Welcome to the Patriot Pulse Report.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're diving deep into a really compelling story, Ksenia Karelina.
The Russian-American ballerina, yeah, recently freed.
Exactly. We've been looking at reports from The Independent, The New York Post, FOX 29 Philadelphia, trying to piece it all together.
There's a lot there.
For sure. And just a quick reminder, you can catch more deep dives like this on our YouTube channel. Just search for Patriot Pulse Report. That's at Patriot Pulse Report.
Good point.
So our mission today really is to understand what happened, her detention, her release. What does it all tell us?
It definitely touches on international relations, individual freedoms, big themes.
Big themes playing out in one person's life.
Sure.
It's quite striking, isn't it, how an ordinary person gets caught up.
Absolutely. Caught in the crosshairs of geopolitics, essentially.
So let's start with who Ksenia Karelina is, just the basics.
Okay, so she's Russian-American, a ballerina, but also works as an esthetician.
Right, and she'd been in the U.S. for, what, over 10 years?
Yeah, over a decade. Built a life in Los Angeles.
Got her U.S. citizenship, too, back in 2021.
That's right, a dual citizen.
And then, January 2024, she goes back to Russia to visit family in Yekaterinburg.
And that's when things went wrong. She was arrested.
Just like that, a trip home turns into, well, an international incident.
It really underscores the risks for dual nationals, doesn't it? Especially in the current climate.
Definitely. So, the arrest itself, the accusation was treason.
High treason, specifically, which sounds incredibly serious.
It does. And the reason? A donation she made?
Get this, it was for $51. $51.
Our U.S. bank account, right? To a Ukrainian charity.
Exactly. And the timing is crucial here. It was February 24th, 2022.
The very day Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
Precisely. So from the Russian perspective, the timing looked, suspicious.
And the FSB, Russia's Federal Security Service, they didn't just see it as a small donation.
No, their claim was much bigger. They said she was, quote, proactively collecting funds.
Collecting funds for what, though?
For things like tactical medical supplies, equipment, even ammunition and means of destruction for Ukrainian forces. That's the official accusation.
Wow. So they painted a picture of active support for the Ukrainian military based on that $51 donation.
Pretty much, and it led to a sentence.
12 years in a penal colony, handed down this past August.
12 years for treason. It's stark.
And there were reports, weren't there, that the Russian authorities claimed she confessed.
Yes, they stated she fully admitted her guilt.
Which, always raises questions. The circumstances of any confession like that.
Absolutely. The pressure, the environment, you have to consider all that. It's difficult to know what really happened behind closed doors.
Of course. And the international reaction? People aren't quiet about it.
No, the charity she donated to spoke out pretty forcefully, condemned the arrest.
Called on the U.S. government to step in.
Right. Demand her release, hold Russia accountable. You also had figures like Mike Waltz.
He was National Security Advisor at the time.
Yes, and he basically welcomed her eventual return, framing the sentence as being purely for that charitable donation.
So, very different interpretations of her actions, depending on who you asked.
Clearly. It shows the sensitivity in Russia around anything perceived as support for Ukraine, even small acts.
Okay, so she's sentenced, things look grim. How did she get out? This was fairly recent, right?
Yes, just last month, she was released as part of a prisoner exchange.
A swap between the U.S. and Russia.
Correct, and apparently this was negotiated at a very high level.
Like CIA involvement.
Reports suggest the CIA and senior Russian intelligence officials hammered out the deal.
So, Syria's back channels were involved.
Seems that way. And interestingly, President Putin reportedly pardoned Karelina just before the swap happened.
A pardon. Okay, so who did the U.S. release in return?
A Russian-German dual citizen named Arthur Petrov.
And what was his story?
He'd been arrested in Cyprus, actually, at the request of the U.S. The charges involved smuggling sensitive microelectronics to Russia.
So technology smuggling.
Yep.
That makes sense in terms of strategic value.
Exactly, a sort of quid pro quo. President Biden even mentioned her release alongside others, like Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan, in an earlier statement about bringing Americans home.
Right, part of that ongoing effort.
These swaps, they're a sign of the times, really, when normal diplomacy breaks down.
True. Intelligence agencies stepping in. It says a lot about U.S.-Russia relations right now.
Definitely. And the nature of the exchange, technology for a ballerina accused of treason, it highlights the different priorities and pressure points.
Then there's the White House meeting that just happened?
Yeah, this past Monday, May 5th, President Trump met with her in the Oval Office.
What was said?
Well, reports say Trump told her it was an honor to meet her,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently said to her companions, "Now I know why you fought so hard to get her out of there."
And Karelina's response.
She reportedly said the honor was hers.
Did Trump mention how her case came to his attention?
He did, actually. Credited Dana White.
The UFC boss.
Really? Yep. Said White brought the case to him, which is, an interesting connection.
It is. Advocacy coming from unexpected places.
Right. And Trump had commented on her release day, too, saying something like, "They released the young ballerina." That was good, so we appreciate that.
And Karelina wasn't the first American freed from Russia under the Trump administration, was she?
No, the second, according to reports, after Mark Fogel, the teacher from Pennsylvania who was released back in February.
Okay, so putting it all together, the human cost here is immense.
15 months. 15 months in Russian captivity. That's a long time.
Imagine. And her fiancé, the boxer Chris Van Heerden,
Yeah.
he met her upon return.
Yes, described it as the end of a nightmare. The relief must have been incredible.
But she's not the only one. There are still other Americans detained in Russia,
Sadly, yes. Reports suggest around 10 Americans remain in Russian prisons.
including some designated as wrongfully detained.
Correct. Like Stephen James Hubbard. That designation triggers specific U.S. government efforts for release.
So Karelina's case, while having a positive outcome for her, fits into this broader worrying pattern.
It does. Arrests of Americans in Russia have increased amid the tensions over Ukraine. Her release is just the latest high-profile swap.
It really drives home the personal impact of these huge geopolitical conflicts.
Absolutely. A reminder of how vulnerable individuals can be and the complex diplomacy needed to navigate these situations. You really have to think about the risks when traveling, especially with dual nationality.
Definitely. Her story, from that small donation to prison to a presidential pardon and a swap, it really highlights the complexities, the personal stakes.
A stark illustration for sure.
Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. The Ksenia Karelina case certainly gives us a lot to think about regarding international relations, justice, and the human element in global events.
Indeed.
Thank you for listening to the Patriot Pulse Report.